This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather Hurler. It's Jeff Cutter and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for September 7th may be deceased. But since I couldn't really find anyone worthy for September 7th, I decided to find someone who was deceased. And thankfully I did. I almost had a one episode day. But anyway, Paul Brown, as you see here. Well, it's not a real picture of him, but I felt like it was a better representation of him. A lot of the pictures were of him with the Bengals, and I'm like, blah, no way. So anyway, Paul Brown was a coach and executive in the All-American Football Conference, which actually did so well that the NFL decided to add 4 franchises from the AAFC to the NFL. That would be, I think, Baltimore, San Francisco, Cleveland, and shoot, I don't know who else went in. I forgot. I'm gonna probably have to take it. Well, Cleveland for sure. It would be, I believe. I think they took Brooklyn though, too. I know they took San Francisco and Buffalo. Yeah, they actually, yeah, they said Baltimore, San Francisco, um, yeah, Baltimore, San Francisco, and Cleveland. So 3 teams. So that was amazing. A lot of people said that Buffalo should have been into the thing, their Buffalo franchise into the NFL, but I guess not. Paul Brown was the co-founder and first coach of the Cleveland Browns, the team that was named after him, not the color. And he played a role in founding the Cincinnati Bengals after the Browns kind of pissed him off. So in a coaching career of 25 years, he had 7 league championships. And Paul Brown was named the #1 game changer of the NFL's 100 seasons. He's credited with a lot of innovations. The first coach to use game film to scout opponents, hire staff assistants, and test players on their knowledge of a playbook. He invented the modern face mask, not the single bar, but like the full bar, the practice squad, and the draw play. He broke football's color barrier, bringing African Americans to play football in his teams. He was not like, he was strict and controlling, which called them in conflict with players. These players, combined with Brown's failure to consult Arnold Modell on personnel decisions, Modell bought the Browns in 1961, led to his firing in 1963. So anyway, he looked good. He wanted to make Ohio State, so he transferred to Miami of Ohio University when he was the starting quarterback, following Lee Eubank. He looked pretty good and all that. So he would play for smaller schools. And then in 1940, Ohio State thought that Paul Brown could be accepted for the job. So basically, he was the head coach in the 1940s. His rigorous system happened. Players were drilled and quizzed about the playbook, and Brown focused on preparing the freshmen to take starting roles once the graduating seniors left. He conditioned his players to emphasize quickness, adopting the 40-yard dash as a measure of speed. Ohio State did pretty good, 6-1-1. They actually finished 13th in the AP poll, and Paul Brown was 4th for Coach of the Year. Ohio State looked good. They did actually win the national title, taking the top of the AP poll, even though they lost the game to Wisconsin. Ohio State was depleted by the military draft, and they ended up 3-6. Brown did okay, 18-8-1. He would be commissioned as a lieutenant in the U.S. Navy and served at the Great Lakes Naval Training Station outside Chicago as head coach of the football team. The Great Lakes team actually ended up in the top 20 in the AP poll for 9-2-1 mark. And then came the All-American Football Conference, trying to compete against the NFL. Arch Ward, the guy who was kind of responsible for the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, lined up wealthy owners for the new league. with teams in LA, New York, San Francisco, and Cleveland. Paul Brown was sad to leave Ohio State, but he couldn't turn down this deal in fairness to my family. So he was in the Ohio area. So Cleveland had some great names. Otto Graham was signed. He was the guy, part of the team that beat Paul Brown in 1941 for Northwestern. And many players came from Ohio State, Great Lakes, and Brazilian teams that Brown coached. Lou Groza was the famous kicker and tackle that played for Brown at Ohio State. Dante LaValle, a good wide receiver, also played for Ohio State. And Marion Motley as well. Max Beebe also helped. Brown wanted to name it the Panthers, but no, they decided to be the Browns, despite Paul Brown's objections. So yeah. So he would help Cleveland do well. Cleveland won every AAFC title in the 4-year history. It was obvious they went to merge. However, Cleveland would face a tough task as NFL Commissioner Bert Bell, who was owner of the Philadelphia Eagles. Talk about, what do you call it? Not necropsy. I don't know, nepotism. Decided to teach Cleveland a lesson, saying that they were winners of a minor league. So he decided on purpose to set up the Eagles at home against the Cleveland Browns in a night game to see what Cleveland did. Sadly, though, for Bell, he got bit as Cleveland won the game 35-10. In fact, Bert Bell actually came by the Cleveland dressing room after the game and shook every Brown's hands. So basically, he was trying to screw Cleveland over, but he admitted defeat, and that was perfect. Cleveland would beat the LA Rams on a last-minute field goal by Lou Groza to get the title, NFL title. Brown led his team in 16 seasons with the Browns to 12 titles. He was, in fact, the first head coach to win a college and NFL championship. Of course, he did with Ohio State. It was not repeated till Jimmy Johnson did it for the Cowboys in 1993. Imagine that. He had that record all himself. Barry Switzer also did it too. Although I don't remember. I don't remember. Oh, yeah, Oklahoma. I was going to say Arkansas, but I know Barry Switzer was from Arkansas. Oh, yeah, Oklahoma. Pete Carroll did it for USC and the Seahawks. A lot of people said Ohio State might get Paul Brown and all that. But Brown did alienate a lot of Ohio State alumni didn't return to school after World War II and signed away players, including Groza, before their college eligibility expired. And Brown was rejected to come back to Ohio State as Woody Hayes would come in. And that didn't work that badly for Ohio State. I mean, 28 years, Ohio State did well under Woody Hayes, but, of course, his temper ruined him. The Browns would be in the playoffs in 52 and 53, but the finals, but lost to Detroit. So anyway, Cleveland did well. Otto Graham retired after the 55 season. Cleveland had a problem. They were 5-7. Paul Brown usually never had a losing season. But they managed to pick up Jim Brown from Syracuse University, and then their fortunes changed. Jim Brown was he was a larger-than-life personality, charismatic in private and dominant on the field. Detroit crushed Cleveland 59-14 in Jim Brown's first season. I think that was the season that Detroit came back from 20 points down on the road in San Francisco in a playoff game to meet Cleveland for the NFL title. So when Jim Brown's star rose, players actually questioned the leadership and playing call of Paul Brown. And there was a lot of skepticism and all that. But Paul Brown would blame the struggles on Milt Plum. But it was the players who blamed Coach Brown. So Jim Brown wanted a weekly radio show, but Paul Brown didn't like it because it undercut his control over the team and its message. Jim Brown was good at running the ball, but Cleveland just wasn't winning anything. Art Modell would buy the team for $4 million in 1961. Well, in 61. Today it would be worth 36 mil. And they gave Brown a new 8-year deal, but basically Paul Brown had troubles and all that. The conflict between Brown and Modell reached a breaking point when Paul traded Bobby Mitchell, who was the star running back, for the rights to Ernie Davis, the guy who succeeded Jim Brown in Syracuse. Paul Brown didn't tell Modell of the trade to Washington. Unfortunately, Davis had leukemia before the 62 season and he died, never playing in a professional game. There was a major rift as Modell and Brown had issues. Modell decided to fire Paul Brown and all that. So Blanton Collier was the new head coach. Brown was not too happy about things. However, the AFL decided to put a franchise in Cincy. And Brown was the third largest investor in the team and was given the title of coaching GM. So Cincy snatched him up. Cleveland did win the title in '64, but since then, nothing else. Brown decided to call his new franchise the Bengals because Cincy did have a team of that name in the 1930s and wanted everything going. Mike Brown, Paul's son, joined the front office and was his top assistant and right-hand man. Brown would bring in other assistants, including Bill Walsh, teaching him the West Coast offense. Cincy fared poorly in his first few seasons, and then they decided to go from the AFL to the NFL because of the merger and put themselves in the AFC. Unfortunately, Greg Cook suffered a massive injury in 1970, and Cincy had no good quarterback. Virgil Carter was okay, but he couldn't hit the ball like Cook could. So, thanks to that, Paul Brown and Bill Walsh designed an offense around the limitations called the West Coast offense. The Bengals lost to the Browns in 1970, and he was booed when he didn't come on the field to shake Collier's hand after the game. But since he got the revenge on Cleveland and all that, because Paul Brown took it offensively that Cleveland got him out. Paul Brown did take Cincy to the playoffs 3 times, but never got past the first round. He decided to retire in 1975 after 45 years of coaching, and he was 67 at that time. So, Paul Brown had 3 sons, Robin, Mike, and Pete. Yeah. And he died of pneumonia August 5th, 1991. Cincy Stadium is now named after him, Paul Brown Stadium, which is kind of nice. All that. So, he was amazing. All that. Paul Brown could be a little bit stingy, all that, but he got the job done. He even had a coaching tree. It included Don Shula, Weave Eubank, Bill Walsh, Chuck Noll, and then to an effect, Ray Perkins, Chuck Knox, Bobby Ryan, Mike Holmgren, John Fox, Tony Dungy, Mike Tomlin, Lovie Smith, Andy Reid, John Gruden, Jeff Fisher, Bill Parcells, Marty Schottenheimer, Bill Cowher, Marvin Lewis, Bill Belichick, and Tom Coughlin. Wow. It's amazing. There's a larger version of it, but it doesn't mention Bill Walsh for some reason. Now, anyway, 1942, he led Ohio State to the championship. He won several championships with the Cleveland Browns in the 1950s when they were a decent franchise to be around. So yeah, Paul Brown was a modern innovator. Can't beat that. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.